I was walking toward my family as they gathered on the lawn for our annual reunion photo when my cousin Sabrina stepped directly in front of me. She had her arms crossed and her sunglasses pushed up like she was the director of the entire event. She looked me straight in the face and said, "We voted you out of the family photo. You can stand aside." Her voice was sharp enough that everyone around us heard. A few relatives shifted awkwardly, and others stared down at their shoes. My mother looked away. My father pretended to fix a tablecloth. No one said a single word in my defense. I froze for a moment, trying to understand what she meant. "You voted me out?" I asked quietly. Sabrina smirked like she expected me to accept it. "It's not personal. You just don't fit the image we want. Go wait over there." My chest tightened, and heat rushed to my face. The family photo was a tradition going back decades. I had been in it every year of my life. Now they were treating me like I didn't belong, like I was something they could remove and still call the picture complete. I stepped back slowly, feeling the sting settle deep in my stomach. Everyone kept arranging themselves, laughing and posing, while I stood alone behind them. I had no idea what to do or say, but someone else heard what happened. Someone who had been quiet until that moment. Grandpa Walter pushed himself up from his chair, leaning on his cane, and started walking toward us. His eyes were fixed on Sabrina, with a look I had never seen him give anyone before. I didn't know it yet, but what he said next would change everything. "My name is Kaya Bennett, and for most of my life, I have been the quiet person in a loud family. I never tried to compete with the cousins who loved attention or the aunts who loved controlling every detail of an event. I preferred helping in the background. I set tables, carried boxes, and made sure everyone else had what they needed. I thought that being supportive was enough to earn a place in the family. But as the years passed, I realized something painful. Being quiet often meant being overlooked. I watched people praise Sabrina for every little thing she organized, even when half the family didn't enjoy it. I watched her mother, Janet, brag about the smallest accomplishments, as if their side of the family was the center of the world. And every year, I slipped further from the middle of the group until I ended up on the edge. Still, I came to the reunion this year, hoping things would feel different. Grandpa Walter had been talking all month about wanting a full family photo because he said, "Every face tells a part of our history." I loved that idea. It made me feel like I mattered, even if no one said it out loud. I arrived early, helped carry food, set out chairs, and hung the reunion banner. I tried to join conversations, but Sabrina kept brushing me off. When I asked if she needed help with the photo lineup, she said, "Just stay on. Stand by." I didn't understand what that meant until she blocked me and announced the vote. My mother, Linda, quietly told me to let it go for today because Sabrina worked hard on the event. My father didn't say anything. My brother Noah overheard but stayed silent, pretending he was busy getting drinks. Everyone avoided conflict, even if it meant avoiding me. As I stood there, I felt a familiar sinking feeling. I had spent years trying to prove that I belonged, and it never seemed to make a difference. But this time, the humiliation hit deeper because they chose to erase me from something that was supposed to represent our whole family. I was ready to walk away from the group and hide behind the tables until the photo was done. I didn't want anyone to see how hurt I was. But then I saw Grandpa Walter rise from his chair. He watched the entire interaction. His cane dug into the grass as he stepped forward with slow, steady determination. His face was set in a way that told me he was not going to let this moment pass quietly. For the first time that day, I felt a small spark of hope. I didn't know what he would say, but I knew he would say something. And that was enough to keep me standing right where I was. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe and comment where you're watching from. As everyone began gathering for the photo, I stepped farther back, pretending to check my phone so no one would see how shaken I was. The lawn buzzed with conversation as relatives adjusted their clothes, fixed their hair, and laughed loudly, excited for the moment they treated as the highlight of the entire reunion. Kids chased each other between the picnic tables, while older relatives sat under the shade tents, sipping lemonade and waiting for instructions. Meanwhile, I felt like a shadow drifting around the edges of my own family. Sabrina moved through the crowd like a wedding planner who believed she was creating something iconic. She straightened people's shoulders, told couples to switch spots, and even lifted her chin at the photographer as if she were his boss. Every time someone asked what was happening, she repeated the same line in a proud tone. "We voted on the lineup this year. Only the core family goes in the photo." She made sure those words were loud enough for me to hear. A few people glanced in my direction, but no one came forward. Some looked sorry, some looked uncomfortable, some looked relieved they were not the ones being targeted. My mother whispered to my father, "Let's not ruin the day with drama," and he nodded without looking up. Their avoidance felt like another rejection, quiet but sharp. I took a slow breath and tried to steady myself. The family photo had never been about perfection. It was about history. Every year we stood together under the same oak tree, even when people argued or outfits didn't match, or kids cried mid-picture. Grandpa always said the photo mattered because it showed who we were, not who we pretended to be. But Sabrina had turned it into a performance, and today she decided I didn't fit her script. Janet, her mother, nodded approvingly at everything Sabrina said, repeating, "She is right. We need a clean look this year." A clean look. That phrase cut deeper than Sabrina's vote, as if my presence made the picture messy, as if I brought something unwanted into a moment that was supposed to include everyone. Aunt Carol quietly approached me and placed a gentle hand on my arm. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I don't agree with this, but I don't want to start trouble." She squeezed my hand and stepped away before Sabrina could notice. Her apology meant something, but her retreat reminded me of the pattern I had lived with for years. Everyone supported me in private, but kept quiet when it mattered in public. I watched as Sabrina positioned her younger sister's new boyfriend in the spot I had stood in last year. He had only been to one reunion but got a front row place. I felt heat rise in my chest, a mixture of shame and anger. How could they erase me so easily? Noah walked by with paper cups stacked in his hands. He avoided eye contact, pretending to be focused on keeping them steady. I called his name softly. He stopped, hesitating. I asked, "Did you agree to that vote?" He swallowed hard and said, "I didn't really vote. I just didn't say anything." His voice was quiet, guilty. "Kaya, you know how Sabrina gets. I didn't want it to turn into a big thing." I nodded, but the hurt deepened. Not saying anything was the same as agreeing. Silence had always been my family's way of choosing the easy path, even if it meant choosing against me. The photographer lifted his camera and called out, "We're ready. Is everyone in place?" People hurried to fill the final spaces. Sabrina announced, "Yes, everyone who belongs is here." That line hit me like a slap. I stepped back another inch, feeling smaller than I had felt in a long time. My heart beat heavy in my chest, and for a moment I considered leaving entirely. It would have been easy to walk toward my car, drive home, and pretend the reunion never existed. I wondered if anyone would even notice, but then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Grandpa rising from his chair. He pushed himself up slowly, gripping his cane like it was part of him. His expression was steady and proud, but there was a fire in his eyes I had not seen since I was a child. He watched Sabrina as if he had been waiting for the right moment to step forward. The wind carried his words as he muttered, "Not my family, not like this." He began walking toward the photo group with a slow, determined pace, one step at a time. The crowd parted slightly as he made his way through, and murmurs spread across the lawn. People straightened their backs, kids stopped running, conversations faded. Grandpa's presence alone shifted the entire energy of the reunion. As he approached Sabrina, her confident smile faltered for the first time that day. Something inside me began to steady. I knew the moment of conflict was no longer mine alone. Grandpa had seen everything, and he was about to make sure every other person saw it too. Grandpa's steady footsteps cut through the entire gathering, and the closer he came, the quieter everyone grew. Sabrina adjusted her sunglasses and tried to regain her confident posture, but the tightness around her mouth betrayed the nerves creeping in. She had always been bold when no one challenged her. Now she stood facing the one person in the family who did not bend to popularity or pressure. Grandpa stopped directly in front of her and planted both hands on the top of his cane, using it to steady his aging frame. His voice came out firm and clear. "Tell me what you just said to my granddaughter." Sabrina forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes and laughed lightly as if the situation were being exaggerated. "It's nothing big, Grandpa. We just took a vote on who should be in the photo this year. We wanted a clean look, and Kaya understands." She waved a dismissive hand in my direction, as though the humiliation she caused could be brushed away with a single gesture. Grandpa narrowed his eyes, studying her closely. "A clean look," he repeated, emphasizing each word. "And who exactly gets to decide who belongs in this family and who doesn't?" His voice was calm, but there was weight behind it, a weight that made even the photographer lower his camera. A few relatives shuffled uneasily. Janet stepped closer to her daughter and said, "Dad, it was a group decision. We were trying to make things organized." Grandpa turned toward her slowly, and Janet shrank back a little. "Organized does not mean cruel," he said. "Organized does not mean choosing convenience over compassion." His gaze shifted back to Sabrina. "Did you tell her she does not belong in her own family's photograph?" Sabrina's flush deepened as she realized her actions were now under the scrutiny of someone whose approval she could not manipulate. "Grandpa, it isn't like that," she said quickly. "We were just trying to make the photo look professional." Grandpa took a breath, then turned his head so his voice would carry across the group. "Everyone here? Did you agree to this decision?" His question hung in the air. A murmur rippled through the crowd. No one raised a hand. No one answered. Some stared at the grass. Others glanced away. Their silence said everything. My mother stepped forward, guilt etched into her expression. She said, "We just didn't want an argument today." Grandpa shook his head. "Avoiding conflict by hurting someone is still hurting someone." Then he extended a hand toward me. "Kaya, come here." The simple request made my heart pound. I walked toward him slowly, feeling every eye watching me. I expected to feel embarrassed, but instead, a strange calm spread through me. He was giving me the space my family had denied me all morning. When I reached him, he placed his hand on my shoulder and said loud enough for the entire reunion to hear, "You belong in this family more than any camera will ever capture. And if you are not in that photo, then it is not a family photo." The crowd reacted in a wave of emotion. Some people gasped, some nodded, some looked ashamed. Sabrina's jaw tightened as she realized the moment had escaped her control. She tried one more time to salvage her authority. "Grandpa, it's not fair to make everyone redo everything just because Kaya took it the wrong way." Grandpa straightened as much as his aging body allowed. "Fair is making sure every person who is part of this family is treated with dignity." His voice grew stronger. "There is no photo without her." After that, he turned to the photographer and said, "We start over." The photographer blinked, surprised but obedient. "Of course, sir." Everyone reset. Sabrina exhaled in frustration, but stepped back as the entire lineup rearranged. People moved aside to make space for me. Cousins who had been silent earlier now gestured for me to step in. My father lifted a hand toward an open spot next to him. My mother whispered, "Come stand with us, honey." I hesitated for a moment, taking in the strange shift of energy. Then I stepped forward, placing myself between my parents as the sunlight filtered through the oak branches above us. Grandpa positioned himself proudly on my other side, holding his cane in one hand while resting the other lightly on my back. The photographer raised the camera again, and the tension in the air melted into something steadier, something that felt more like truth than performance. This was the turning point. The moment when the silence that had held me down for years finally broke. Grandpa had not only defended me, he had restored my place in the family with one powerful stand. The photographer lifted his camera again, but before he could take the shot, Grandpa stepped forward and held up his hand. His movement was slow but commanding, and everyone quieted instantly. "Before we take this picture," he said, "I want to say something." His voice carried across the lawn, steady and full of history. People turned toward him, curiosity mixing with the tension already in the air. Sabrina crossed her arms, clearly annoyed, but she stayed silent. Grandpa looked at the entire group, his gaze lingering on each generation, from the youngest toddlers to the oldest relatives sitting under the tents. "This family," he began, "has grown, changed, and expanded. We have gained new members through marriage, through birth, and through love, but we have never, in all these years, pushed anyone out." His words hit the crowd with slow, deliberate weight. He pointed his cane toward the framed photos hanging from the string lights. "Look at those pictures. Every one of them includes people who had disagreements, people who made mistakes, people who fell out of touch but still came back. We never erased anyone." He turned toward me, his expression softening. "Kaya has been here since she was a child. She helped set tables, cleaned up after everyone left, and stepped in whenever this family needed an extra hand. She has shown up even when she had every reason not to." He then pivoted toward Sabrina. "And today, she was told she does not belong because she does not fit an image." The crowd murmured, some shifting uncomfortably, others shaking their heads at the thought. Sabrina opened her mouth as if to defend herself, but Grandpa raised his hand again. "No, listen." His tone had a firmness that silenced her. "A family is not a brand. It is not a photo shoot. It is not something you curate to impress people on the internet." His eyes sharpened. "A family is only as strong as the people we refuse to lose." A hush spread across the lawn. Janet stared at the grass. Noah looked at me with regret in his eyes. My mother wiped her cheek, and my father folded his arms as if bracing himself against the truth of Grandpa's words. Grandpa continued, "If we start removing people because they do not match someone's idea of perfect, then we destroy the meaning of the photo, and we destroy the meaning of family." He stepped beside me and took my hand. "I stand with her, and if she is not in the picture, I won't be in it either." His declaration rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. Gasps, whispers, and startled looks spread across faces. For decades, Grandpa had been the heart of the reunion. He was the one who planned the first ever photo under the oak tree. Without him, the tradition meant nothing. The photographer lowered his camera, unsure how to continue. Sabrina's confidence crumbled, her posture falling from rigid superiority to defensive discomfort. She tried again to regain control. "You are blowing this out of proportion, Grandpa. It was just a vote for the sake of order." Grandpa's voice rose with rare intensity. "A vote that targeted one person is not order. It is exclusion." He stepped closer to Sabrina, not in anger, but in truth. "You let pride speak for you today. Not respect. Not family." Sabrina looked away, cheeks burning with embarrassment. Then something unexpected happened. The younger cousins, usually rowdy and distracted, began moving toward me. One by one, they stepped into place around the adults. A few aunts followed, then uncles. Even timid relatives who normally avoided conflict shifted toward our side. It was as if Grandpa's words broke a spell, and people remembered who they wanted to be. The photographer cleared his throat. "Should we take the photo now?" Grandpa nodded. "Yes, and make sure she is centered." He guided me gently into a spot beside him, right in the heart of the group. I felt a wave of emotion build in my chest, stronger than shame, stronger than anger. It was recognition, something I had not felt from my family in years. As I stood among them, I noticed Sabrina step hesitantly into the back row. Her confidence was drained, her expression conflicted. She was no longer leading the group. She was part of it, just like everyone else. The photographer adjusted his lens, counted down, and the flash went off. The moment was captured forever, not as a display of perfection, but as proof of truth. Grandpa had not just put me back in the picture. He had rebuilt the meaning of the entire reunion in one bold stand. The climax was not the flash of the camera. It was the moment my family was forced to choose who they were going to be. And for once, they chose right. When the photo was finally taken, the tension on the lawn seemed to dissolve in layers. People let out breaths they had been holding for minutes. A few cousins clapped quietly, not because it was expected, but because they understood something meaningful had just happened. As everyone began breaking away from the lineup, conversations restarted, softer and more honest than before. The photographer walked over to me with a small smile and said, "You have a good man in your corner." I nodded, still absorbing everything. Grandpa squeezed my hand once, before lowering himself back into his chair with Noah's help. "You remember this day, Kaya," he said as he settled in. "Remember that people can forget their backbones sometimes. That's why someone has to remind them what doing right looks like." His tone wasn't angry. It was steady, almost relieved. The relief spread through me too, replacing the deep shame that had settled earlier. I looked at my family and saw something shift in their faces. Confusion, guilt, sympathy, and even pride mingled together as they processed what had unfolded. My mother approached with cautious steps. She looked younger in that moment, softer than I had seen her in years. "Kaya, I am sorry," she said, her voice almost breaking. "I should have stepped in. I just didn't want Sabrina to explode like she usually does." I appreciated the honesty, even if it came too late. My father stood beside her, rubbing the back of his neck the way he always did when he struggled with his emotions. "Your grandpa is right," he said. "We should have protected you instead of staying quiet. You deserved better today. You deserved better many times before today." His voice deepened with regret, and hearing him say it made something loosen in my chest. I nodded slowly. "I never wanted a fight," I said. "I just wanted to be part of the family." My mother wiped her eyes and whispered, "You are. You always have been. We let someone else make us forget that." As they stepped aside, more relatives came to me. A few cousins apologized for staying quiet earlier. One aunt hugged me and said, "Thank you for not walking away. You being here helps. Remind us who we actually want to be." Their sincerity warmed me, but it also highlighted how long I had accepted being treated as invisible. I realized that staying quiet to keep peace had never brought peace at all. It only made the loudest person the leader. And today, finally, that pattern cracked. Across the lawn, Sabrina stood stiffly near the drink table, arms folded tight. She wasn't directing anyone anymore. Janet hovered beside her, whispering sharp comments about Grandpa's reaction, but no one joined them. Their corner felt isolated in a way it had never felt before. I walked toward Grandpa, choosing not to confront Sabrina. She had already felt the consequences of her own behavior, not through anger or revenge, but through the truth spoken by the person everyone respected most. Grandpa saw me approaching and motioned for me to sit beside him. "You held yourself with grace today," he said. "You did not yell. You did not fight small people in small ways. You let the truth show itself." I sat with him in the shade, watching cousins play cornhole and listening to the murmur of voices softened by reflection. The reunion looked the same, but the atmosphere felt different, lighter, wiser, more honest. After a few minutes, Noah walked over and sat beside me. He looked embarrassed. "I shouldn't have stayed quiet earlier," he said. "I owe you better than that." I appreciated the sincerity. "Thank you for saying it," I replied. "We've all stayed quiet for too long." He nodded and said, "That won't happen again." And for the first time in years, I believed him. As the day went on, Grandpa insisted on taking a smaller photo with just me and him. He said, "One day, when you doubt your place again, look at this picture and remember that I see you." His hand shook a little when he held the camera out to a relative to take the photo, but his smile was steady. Standing beside him, I felt grounded in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I realized that the photo he fought for wasn't about posing under the oak tree. It was about restoring dignity. When it was time for people to pack up, I hugged Grandpa before heading to my car. He whispered, "Proud of you, kiddo. Do not let anyone vote you out of your own life." His words settled into my heart, like they had always been meant to live there. As I drove home, I replayed the day in my mind. The humiliation, the silence, the courage, and the victory that wasn't loud but strong enough to shift the ground beneath my feet. I understood something I had not understood before. Belonging is not granted by people who fear losing power. Belonging comes from truth, respect, and the people who show up for you when it matters most. Sabrina's vote meant nothing. Grandpa's voice meant everything. I ended the day no longer asking for a place. I stood in it. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and comment where you're watching from.